Good morning to you. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is off. We're going to begin with the classified documents case against former President Trump, which appears to be moving forward in Florida. A judge denied one of two motions his lawyers filed to throw out the case. Trump was in court yesterday for the day-long hearing as his defense team sparred with prosecutors over the Espionage Act, the main statute that prosecutors are using against him. Trump's team says it's unconstitutionally vague as it applies to presidents. Trump says that he designated the materials he took to Mar-a-Lago as personal records while he was still in office. Prosecutors called on Judge Aileen Cannon to reject Trump's claim, arguing that the documents in question are nowhere close to being personal records. All this comes as the start of Trump's New York hush money trial, which is less than 2 weeks away, faces a possible delay. The trial is supposed to start on March 25th. That's a week from Monday. But Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg says he is not opposed to Trump's request to push back that start date. We have a lot to cover this morning. NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen joins us, as well as NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos, to break it all down. John, let's start with you. Walk us through what happened in court yesterday in Florida and the judge's decision to deny the motion from Trump.
Good morning, Joe. The big headline, of course, as you note, the denial of this motion based on the Espionage Act and what Trump's lawyers say is it being too vague, in part suggesting that the term national defense information is too vague. We know that Donald Trump took documents that I think anybody would understand have defense value. But basically what the judge did yesterday was denied that motion and said not that the motion could never be considered, but rather that it was premature at this point, and said that it could be considered as part of jury instructions later, or for things for jurors to weigh as they try to determine whether or not Donald Trump is guilty of a crime. So we'll probably see that pop up again. As far as the other motion involving the Presidential Records Act and whether President Trump actually, actually was in a place where he was unlawfully retaining them, we're still waiting to hear what Judge Cannon says about that.
All right, so Danny, let's talk about the fact that Judge says that Trump's lawyers' concerns about the Espionage Act could be discussed during jury instruction briefings. We don't have a date yet for this trial, but is this an indication we could be getting closer to that step?
Yes, maybe. But look, I've been saying this for months. Look at the examples even in the New York case. So many of these trials, we say, OK, in New York, there's a trial date. We know it's coming. What else? There's nothing left that could possibly delay this case. And then something comes up. Or in Atlanta, someone files a motion to disqualify the prosecutors that nobody saw coming. Things happen in high-profile, complex cases. A trial date is a delicate thing. It requires coordinating the schedules of dozens of people and hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of documents and evidence and exhibits and witnesses. So things happen and trials get delayed. Sometimes it's ordinary run-of-the-mill stuff, but on cases of this importance, it's really to be expected. And just in the last couple months, we've had a couple different reasons these trials are getting delayed that nobody saw coming back at the end of 2023.
And John, let's talk about a delay that maybe we didn't see coming for the case that we thought was going to start in 10 days, Trump's New York hush money trial. Now the Manhattan DA says that he'd be okay with delaying the start of the trial for 30 days. So what's happening here? And could this also impact Trump's 3 other criminal cases?
Yeah, Joe, all of these things impact each other, and certainly they impact the politics. To Danny's point, if you've got a bunch of well-paid lawyers, they have the ability to continue to raise all kinds of motions and delay trials. But what you've got going on in Manhattan, apparently, the defense basically said that they weren't able to see discovery from witnesses until right before this trial date was set to start. And I think the prosecutor there, Alvin Bragg, has determined that the risk of being accused of sort of trying to pull a fast one on the defense is not worth trying to stop a delay, the possible appeal on those grounds later if he were to win a conviction. So, he's asked the judge for, no more than 30 days. We'll see if that's actually what happens. But you would think that it wouldn't be likely wouldn't be a lot less than that now.
Danny, let's dig into why this could be delayed. The U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York turned over 73,000 pages of records in recent days. Prosecutors say those records appear to contain materials related to this case. These are materials that the District Attorney's Office requested more than a year ago. The U.S. Attorney didn't give them, declined to provide. Why now? Why so close to the start of the trial?
Well, one reason the U.S. Attorney's Office may have declined to provide is they didn't feel like it. And that's the supremacy clause at work. And this is part of a common tension between local prosecutors and federal prosecutors, which is they don't necessarily have to listen to each other. And there isn't always as much inter-office cooperation as you might expect. The rules of discovery require the Manhattan DA's office really to turn over what they have. It doesn't really create an obligation on them to go out and find other stuff that other agencies might have, including a federal agency, including the U.S. Attorney's Office. But both sides are a little bit to blame here. And actually, let me say all three sides, including the U.S. Attorney's Office, for kind of dragging this along. The Manhattan DA's office hopefully was forthcoming about the existence of these documents. And then the defense knew a lot of these documents stem from the Michael Cohen investigation from years ago. So that was no secret to anybody. These were not documents that were in a vault somewhere and completely unknown. Their existence, maybe not this number of documents, but the existence of the investigation was known for some time. So I think there's a little bit of blame to go around to all.
All right. John and Danny, thank you both for kicking us off this hour. We appreciate it. Now to the war in Gaza, where there is a new deadly escalation of violence. The Hamas-run Palestinian Health Ministry says dozens of people were killed. More than 150 were injured in two separate Israeli attacks on crowds waiting for aid. One of the attacks was on this aid distribution center in central Gaza. The IDF has denied responsibility for the attacks. The violence comes amid the catastrophic humanitarian situation in Gaza, which the UN says is on the brink of famine. A private aid ship that has been slowly making its way across the Mediterranean is set to arrive in Gaza today. And just yesterday, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called for new elections in Israel. Some of the strongest criticism yet by a U.S. leader. Schumer called Prime Minister Netanyahu an obstacle to peace. NBC News senior Capitol Hill correspondent Garrett Haake has more.
As Israel targets Hamas in Gaza and the humanitarian crisis grows, the top Senate Democrat delivering a scathing rebuke of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, saying he needs to be replaced in new elections.
Prime Minister Netanyahu has lost his way by allowing his political survival to take the precedence over the best interests of Israel.
Schumer, the highest-ranking Jewish elected official in American history, laying blame for the war at the feet of Hamas, but saying Netanyahu is an obstacle to peace.
He has been too willing to tolerate the civilian toll in Gaza, which is pushing support for Israel worldwide to historic lows. Israel cannot survive if it becomes a pariah.
Republican leaders slamming the criticism of Netanyahu, who is also known as Bibi, the democratically elected leader of a close U.S. ally.
The Democratic Party doesn't have an anti-Bibi problem. It has an anti-Israel problem.
It's just plain wrong for an American leader to play such a divisive role in Israeli politics while our closest ally in the region is in an existential battle for its very survival.
Netanyahu has not responded to Schumer's comments. Meanwhile, President Biden has criticized Israel's military operations as over the top and privately complained of Netanyahu, quote, giving him hell, sources told NBC News last month.
All right, Garrett Haake, thank you so much. The situation in Haiti is growing more desperate by the day. Hundreds of Americans are among those struggling to get out as the violence there continues to grow. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez reports from the neighboring Dominican Republic.
A catastrophe is unfolding in Haiti. Each day, people running for their lives. The gang violence in Port-au-Prince now trapping Americans caught in the crossfire. Hundreds of stranded U.S. citizens registering with the State Department.
We just want to go home.
Missionary Jill Dolan and her family are stuck at a makeshift motel near the country's shuttered main airport. She's desperate to get back to Florida in time for her daughter's wedding. Instead, she's ducking for cover.
We did hear gunfire right outside at this gate. And it was very scary. And we all went running and we turned off the lights and just hid in our room until it went away.
Amid concerns of a mass exodus from Haiti, the Dominican Republic is increasing patrols along its border, and the U.S. is considering temporarily housing Haitian migrants at Guantanamo Bay like it's done before. In the Dominican border town of Dajabon, Haitians were briefly allowed to cross into this closed-off market. But if they went too far illegally, we saw bus after bus deporting them. This widow, mother of 6, told us she was desperate for food. We don't have work. We don't have a president. We have nothing, she says. The UN just announcing that it's launching an air bridge, essentially a humanitarian corridor in the sky to bring over humanitarian aid from the Dominican Republic across the border into Haiti. We also met Wanyu Janvier, who says he's from Miami, but as he recently visited family in Haiti, a gang overtook his bus, leaving him with no passport and no way out.
They took all my stuff, my documents, my bags, my phones, my money that I had in my pocket.
This is the edge of chaos, a humanitarian crisis at yet another border.
Our thanks to Gabe Gutierrez for that report. In addition to the violence, the United Nations estimates that almost 1 million people inside Haiti are on the brink of famine. Russian President Vladimir Putin is expected to win a new 6-year term as Russians begin voting in a presidential election overshadowed by the war in Ukraine. Polls have now opened in a 3-day election that's all but certain to extend Putin's reign. It's unlikely that Kremlin-friendly rivals will put a dent in the results. NBC News chief international correspondent Keir Simmons joins us now from Moscow. So, Keir, walk us through how this election is unfolding and how Russians feel about another likely Putin term.
Well, Joe, we're inside a middle school in central Moscow that has been turned into a polling station. We've been here since 8 a.m. It's now 2 in the afternoon. Take a look at the motif for this election, that V in the Russian colors. You'll recognize it as a symbol of the war in Ukraine, because in many ways, this is not so much an election as a referendum on President Putin and on his illegal invasion of Ukraine. Behind me there, you can see voters registering. Then you'll recognize this from our own elections. Across here, the traditional polling booth, see-through for transparency. There are monitors from inside Russia here. No monitors from the West allowed, a monitor from China. And here are electronic voting booths. This is the first time it's been a 3-day vote, the first time that there's been online voting like this. The Kremlin spokesman, Dmitry Peskov, today calling it convenient. But we've spoken to monitors here, Russian monitors, who do question this. They say they don't know exactly what's going on with that electronic voting. And all of this is important to the Kremlin, not just necessarily because of the result. Listen, we know President Putin is going to win this election, and it will be announced on Sunday night. It will be about the turnout. So back in 2018, it was 67.5%, according to the Electoral Commission here in Russia. You can bet that the Kremlin will be determined to ensure that it matches that or is more than that. We actually saw a group of 15 municipal workers arriving here, clearly organised, and voting together. That being said, President Putin is very popular here, Joe. Independent polling, such as there is, shows that across this country of 11 time zones. We spoke to one woman in her 90s who said she voted for President Putin. She said she saw the funeral of Stalin, and now she says President Putin is the only person she trusts.
So, Keir, I mean, clearly the war in Ukraine is a major issue here in the States. But in Putin's recent State of the Nation address, he also leaned heavily on some of the domestic challenges within the country. Tell us a little more about that. What are the issues on the minds of Russian voters?
Yeah, I mean, just to mention the war in Ukraine, I mean, opposition to the war has just not been allowed. There are 3 other candidates. All of them support what Russia's so-called special military operation. Alexei Navalny's wife, Yulia Navalny, who, of course, was a leading voice in opposition to President Putin until he died in prison just a few weeks ago. She says that the West should not recognize this election. But you're right, it's also about domestic issues. And some of the voters that we've spoken to here have talked about the fact that they feel comfortable, that they feel economically well. In fact, a report just this week from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence in the US said that the Russian economy is likely to grow. Talked about the fact that Europe is still, Russia is still the second largest provider of liquid natural gas to Europe. So certainly, talking to Russians, and it does depend on the age. Older Russians tend to be more supportive of President Putin. Talking to Russians, one of the things that they will highlight is the economy. Again, this is a referendum really on President Putin. What he's going to want to do after this is to show that Russia is behind him. And frankly, he is clearly determined to do that by whatever means.
All right, Keir Simmons with a great look at what's happening right now inside Russia. Keir, we appreciate your reporting. Thank you so much. The father of a school shooter in Michigan will be sentenced next month after a judge found him guilty yesterday of involuntary manslaughter. The jury deliberated for about 10 hours before convicting James Crumbley on all 4 counts stemming from his son's deadly school rampage. Marks the first time in the U.S. that parents of a mass school shooter are being held criminally responsible. Crumbley's wife, Jennifer, was convicted on the same charge last month. Both James and Jennifer Crumbley will be sentenced on April 9th and face up to 15 years in prison. Their son Ethan is serving a life sentence. The cleanup is underway in several states this morning after devastating storms. There were reports of 8 tornadoes in the Midwest on Thursday. 2 people were killed at a mobile home park in Ohio. Officials in Indiana are reporting a number of injuries and flattened buildings in the town of Winchester. Out west, parts of Colorado saw nearly 4 feet of snow. Many schools and businesses forced to close across the state, understandably, with more than 100,000 customers losing power. The system rolled across Denver, which got close to a foot of snow. At least 800 flights in and out of the city were canceled during that storm. Let's get more on all this now from meteorologist Angie Lassman. Whew, busy day, Angie, huh?
Busy day indeed, Joe. Good morning to you. Finishing our work week with a whole lot of weather to talk about. Let's start with what we dealt with last night and into the overnight hours. And it was a line of thunderstorms that sparked some tornadoes, some of those, of course, damaging. And we'll likely see that survey come out from the National Weather Service here as the day goes on. But in the meantime, these are 2 of the hardest hit areas. We did see some of those tornado warnings coming down around 7:39 for folks in Winchester, Indiana, Lakeview, Ohio, around 7:27. Each of these spots had about 20 to 25 minutes until the tornadoes worked through. Of course, we've seen the damages already. And again, we'll start to see the surveys coming out and the ratings of those tornadoes here as the day goes on. In the meantime, those areas are much quieter. But notice this line of thunderstorms that stretches across parts of the southeast. We've got Knoxville down into portions of Texas picking up some additional rain. We've got plenty of lightning, and those thunderstorms are working through. And we do actually have a thunderstorm watch that's in effect until late morning for Central Time. We're going to watch that centered right around parts of Tuscaloosa. You can see Mississippi to Alabama, continuing to see those conditions. We've had a couple of tornado warnings. We've had a couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. And our severe threat is not over just yet. We're going to see that potential last into this evening. We've got a couple of spots, although not quite as expansive as yesterday, but a few spots that could pick up some large hail. That's going to be our main threat today. We've got tennis ball size hail possible across portions of southern Texas, Austin and San Antonio included in that. And again, it goes through tonight. This storm system is going to be the gift that keeps on giving when it comes to impactful weather here over the next couple of days. We've got the potential for some flooding across parts of northeast Texas into Mississippi with some impressive rainfall rates. I showed you the severe weather from it. And even into tomorrow, more rain on the way as that system continues to sink to the south. We'll have to deal with another round of those showers and thunderstorms across parts of the south. Even into our Sunday, those thunderstorms, once again, with that front now becoming stationary, it's going to leave us with some heavy rain to contend with across portions of the east central Gulf. When we go through now through Sunday, maybe 1 inch to 2 inches. Again, the flooding will be a potential. Joe, as we look ahead to Saturday, we know it's a big weekend across the country with St. Patty's Day. We've got the rain across the south, but elsewhere for Saturday looks pretty good.
Some good parade weather in other parts of the country.
Exactly.
All right, Angie, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.